All right. Good morning to some and good afternoon to others. Thank you so much for joining our second panel on doing business with MBDA, advancing the AAPI business community. Today, we will hear from some of our MBDA business and specialty centers, along with grantees and some strategic partners. I am Emily Kessel, Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs Specialist at the Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency, or MBDA, and I will be your moderator for today's panel in place of my colleague, Ron Uba, who sends his well wishes and hopes to engage with all of you in the near future. But to begin our program, I would first like to introduce our Associate Director of the Office of Policy Analysis and Development, Efrain Gonzalez Jr., for opening remarks. Efrain, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Emily. Good afternoon and good morning once again, depending on your time zone, and welcome to the U.S. Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency's Asian Pacific American Heritage Month celebration and conference. Today, we recognize the outstanding contributions made by the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities to our history, culture, and economy. I'm delighted to be with you in this virtual setting. It has truly been one of the great pleasures of my career to work closely with the AA and NHPI communities in business development. AA and NHPIs contribute so much to society with entrepreneurship and American jobs. It is estimated that AA and NHPI make up roughly 2.6 million of U.S. businesses, representing over 8% of all classifiable firms in America. Our latest data showed AA and NHPI firms generated over 918 billion in annual revenues and more than 4.7 million jobs prior to COVID. AA and NHPI firms, as well as other minority firms, felt a disproportionate impact of COVID. Some rough and preliminary estimates have 26% of AA and NHPI firms closing due to the pandemic. We know and understand that for many of you, the impact of COVID-19 is not over yet. MBDA fully recognizes that members of the AA and NHPI community are currently burdened by a dramatic increase in the number of hate crimes. In the past year, hate crimes against AA and NHPI community have spiked by over 50%. AA and NHPI partners and clients of MBDA are now far more concerned about their personal safety and that of their families than they are about how to keep their business open or reopen during a pandemic. To be clear, MBDA condemns any acts of violence, discrimination, or harassment directed at the AA and NHPI community. We stand both shoulder to shoulder and arm in arm with our brothers and sisters, and offer heartfelt sympathies and condolences to the families and friends of the victims of the senseless and irresponsible conduct. Today's virtual conference, though, is about hope, support, and opportunity. MBDA will continue to work to open more doors and break down barriers to success for AA and NHPI and other minority business entrepreneurs in the best of times, as well as during the most challenging of situations and circumstances. MBDA seeks to ensure that during this pandemic recovery period, our programs and services remain at the forefront of supporting business growth and stabilization in minority business communities. That is why today's sessions feature MBDA program staff and what they can do for you. MBDA programs, initiatives, and projects are all aimed at supporting minority businesses. We have 34 MBDA business centers, advanced manufacturing centers, export centers, and a federal procurement center in 19 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. I would also like to add that MBDA augmented its centers and projects with funding to assist even more minority businesses with COVID recovery under the CARES Act, and soon the fiscal year 2021 Appropriations Consolidation Act. Regardless of the size of your firm or the years in business, MBDA is ready and able to assist. For example, in fiscal year 2020, MBDA program professional business consultants and specialists helped minority businesses secure over $7.9 billion in contracts and financings, and over 27,000 jobs created and retained. MBDA also invests in innovative projects, including Global Women of Color Economic Empowerment, Entrepreneurship Education for Formerly Incarcerated Persons, and the American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian projects. And finally, MBDA is focused on developing new data and research for and about minority businesses that can shape policy and foster even more opportunities for you. Together, we are shaping a new direction for minorities through minority business enterprises. We are committed to meeting the unique needs of our AA and NHPI clients and community. Without exception, we're committed to our mission of promoting diversity and inclusion in support of driving and expanding the U.S. economy. Thank you for being a part of this exciting event, and happy Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing remarks by Congresswoman Judy Chu of California's District 27. Congresswoman Chu is the chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus and a long-standing advocate for AAPI businesses and the AAPI community.
Hello, I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, and as a member of the House Ways and Means Committee, House Small Business Committee, and as chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, or what we call CAPAC, I'm so happy to be with the Minority Business Development Agency today to celebrate Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. This has been a truly difficult year for all of us, but AAPIs have had a particularly hard time. In addition to the spike in hate crimes, our communities are also experiencing disproportionately high infection and mortality rates from the coronavirus. And AAPI small businesses have struggled as well. Even before there were stay-at-home orders, misinformation and xenophobia about the coronavirus caused Asian-owned businesses to lose customers and revenue. And that has contributed to higher than average rates of small business closures and long-term unemployment in our communities. That's why I push so hard for programs like PPP and push the Small Business Administration to ensure all resources were translated into Asian and other languages so that entrepreneurs who are not proficient in English could still access this aid. But creating these programs to assist small businesses was just the first step. Just as important was ensuring that this assistance made it to the small businesses and entrepreneurs across the country who've been suffering the most. And that's where the Minority Business Development Agency and your MBDA centers came in. We know that underserved businesses, including those owned by AAPIs and other people of color, are less likely to have relationships with traditional banks and the resources to access all the assistance available to them. That is why Congress relied on MBDA centers to help us close that gap. Centers that outreach to underserved businesses, provide guidance, and ensure that they have the tools they need to survive the pandemic. That assistance has been invaluable as we finally near the end of the pandemic and are ready to get back to business. And thanks to President Biden's bold American Rescue Plan, small businesses have even more resources to help them during these challenging times. That includes the creation of the new Community Navigators program to better ensure that underserved communities are connected to the federal and local assistance available to them. This is especially important for communities like ours. In Congress, I'm also committed to ensuring that Asian Americans are safe from prejudice and bigotry. Since the start of this pandemic, there have been over 6,600 reported incidents of anti-Asian hate. That's why we in CAPAC have taken action through letters, press conferences, hearings, and legislation. I'm so proud to say we took an important step forward this month when the House and Senate both passed Senator Mazie Hirono and Congresswoman Grace Meng's COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act with overwhelming bipartisan votes and President Biden signed it into law. This will help to improve our hate crimes response by creating a new position at the U.S. Department of Justice to better track and address hate crimes and incidents. And it also included the text of my bill, the Jabbar Hire No Hate Act, which will provide resources to state and local law enforcement to address anti-Asian hate. After over a year of anti-Asian prejudice and violence, it means so much to know that the voices of the AAPI community helped to create this new law to protect all Americans from hate. This kind of bipartisan support for AAPIs is historic, and it shows we are not alone in standing up to racism and bigotry. So thank you again for all that you are doing to support our AAPI small businesses and their communities, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Congresswoman Chu, for your representation at today's event. I would now like to return the stage to our moderator, Ms. Emily Kessel. Emily.
Thank you so much, Efrain. Now we will transition to the panel portion of our program. Panelists are reminded to kindly keep your remarks to 3 minutes or no more than 5 to be mindful of the allotted time for today's full panel. But now I would like to introduce our first panelist, Ms. Chilling Tong, President and CEO of the Asian Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship, or National ACE, who is also a CARES Act funding recipient of MBDA. So without further ado, Chilling, please go ahead.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you, MBDA, for your hard work to make this program a success, especially under the leadership from Edith McLeod, Efrain Gonzalez, and the whole entire MBDA team. We're also grateful for Secretary Raimondo's support at the National ACE AAPI Heritage Month celebration and conference on May 4th. She has expressed her solidarity to our community and assured that Biden's team will do everything they can to stand up for us against any kind of racism or discrimination. As Efrain has mentioned, the AAPI business community is dealing with two illnesses, COVID and hate. Almost 40% of reported hate incidents happen in the place of business. As Congresswoman Judy Chu mentioned, because of COVID Hate Crimes Act, the passed, and this bill provides encouraging news for the entire AAPI business community to restart their business safely. The Carex grant from MBDA is another way to show how the government can help AAPI business community recover from damage caused by COVID. With the Carex grant, National ACE is able to live up and work with over 70 affiliate AAPI chamber and partners throughout the country to institute technical assistance and capacity building programs for business to reopen their operations. Now I would like to introduce Janet Alekapala, the program manager for Carex grant. Janet.
Thank you, Chilling. On behalf of National ACE and our 70 AAPI chambers and affiliates and MBEs across the country, we are so grateful for the support we received from CARES. We're pleased to report the following. National ACE was able to reach 16,000 small business clients, and host over 150 webinars and trainings throughout this past year. In that time, we've also helped 2,000 AAPI small businesses with PPP loan forgiveness. We've trained over 3,000 businesses on the hazards and preventions of COVID-19. We helped close to 6,000 businesses mitigating the effects of reduced travel, and we've helped 700 business owners file for federal resources. Also, through our ACE Next Gen Level Up program, we've helped over 400 AAPI millennial entrepreneurs, and we were able to connect them with mentors and corporations. This group became a talent pool and were hired by companies because of the virtual networking and programming that took place during the pandemic. Through our CARES Act funding, we were able to support and help small businesses such as FIA Care, which is a Pacific Islander healthcare company based in Sandy, Utah. Owner Stephen Fabiano, who is Tongan, Samoan, Hawaiian, and Chinese. He told us during a business webinar that ACE helped him put together a more solid business plan to get his finances in order and was able to scale his business successfully during this pandemic. Stephen is so happy to know that consulting services that ACE provided were available to him during a time where he didn't know if he could grow his business. That's just one example of the many successes we've had during this program. And what CARES has allowed us to do, our organization was able to outreach to many AAPI minority businesses across the country through our 70 affiliate chamber partnerships. We're very hopeful for the future of business, and we're looking forward to growing our programs to help businesses recover and become more resilient for the long term. Thank you again for this opportunity, and we're glad to report this.
Thank you so much, Chilling, and thank you so much, Janet, for sharing this wonderful information, helpful for our audience today. Next, I would like to introduce Tony Tang, Project Director of the San Jose MBDA Business Center, to share more about the Business Center's support and services for MBEs at large, and in light of the impacts of the pandemic and the violence and discrimination that has been targeting the API community. So Tony, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Tony Tang, and I'm the director of the San Jose Minority Business Development Center, operated by Asian Inc. Asian Inc. also operates another MBDA project, the Native Business Initiative for Transformation, which directly addresses the needs of Native American and Hawaiian-owned businesses. We are technical assistance business centers that promotes the growth of local, small, and minority-owned businesses through access to capital, access to contracts, and access to new markets. The San Jose MBDA Business Center delivers minority business technical assistance in a number of languages, including English, Cantonese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Hindi, Spanish, and we also have volunteers that speak Korean and Japanese. AAPI business owners are encouraged to contact their nearest MBDA Business Center. However, AAPI businesses who requires in-language assistance are welcome to contact us. Let me go over a little bit about our focuses here at the centers. Our main focuses is, of course, access to contracts, which is procurement, access to capital, certification, and business consulting. In terms of procurement and procurement assistance, not only that we facilitate business-to-business partnerships, we also help identify contract opportunities from the federal departments, state agencies, local governments, and private corporations. A lot of these federal, state, and local agencies have set-asides for MBEs, and they turn to us to help match them with the vendor. If you go to our asianinc.org website, you can actually see what kind of opportunities we're working on currently. Now, keep in mind, some of these or most of these procurement opportunities from these agencies, they do require certifications. So that's the next thing that we could help with. We help with the application process, get all your paperwork ready. If you're going to apply for 8A, DVBE, MBE, any of the required certifications, we help with everything with that on that. In terms of access to capital, we identify financing opportunities for our businesses. We look for brokerage or financial transactions, assist with mergers and acquisitions, any commercial and banking, financial credit risk analysis. We also do. Of course, during the pandemic, we focused on a lot of the SBA conventional loans that businesses were in need. All these relief programs. During the past year, we were focused mainly on the SBA and conventional loans. And last thing I will talk about in terms of our services is our business consultant. We provide assistance on strategic and business planning, organization and structure, policies and procedures, general business counseling, and capability statement preparation. And of course, during COVID, we did a lot of this, helping businesses pivot their business plans in terms of getting the strategies out and getting their products to consumers. And that briefly is what we do at the San Jose Center. Now, to address the second part of the question, Emily, for the impacts of COVID, we've seen positive and negative trends. We've been seeing a lot of layoffs, closures when it comes to our restaurants, bars, personal hygienic businesses, retailers. In our area, the San Francisco Bay Area, we have seen an average of 35 to 40% closure rates in our underserved areas. This is mainly due to the lack of capital. I mean, people may ask, with all these programs that our SBA is pushing out and the California government is pushing out, how come these businesses are still struggling? The issue is they don't. When all these loan programs were first pushed out, it was only pushed out in English. So a lot of our clients that don't speak English, by the time they were able to get a translator or work with a community organization like us, a lot of the funds were exhausted. And since most of the businesses are still cash dominant, they are not a ideal borrower for lenders for traditional loans. So that's one of the obstacles that a lot of our clients faced. And now with the AAPI community dealing with hate, a lot of them are opting to stay closed for the safety of themselves and their employees. For these businesses that are closed, we probably won't see them opening back up. So especially with what's going on, we don't know when would this be an end to everything. So the issue with hate, it pushes a lot of our older AAPI business owners to force an early retirement. So that's some of the negatives that the AAPI community is facing right now. That's the San Jose Mbda has been working countless hours in attempts to transform the remaining businesses digitally. We want them to get them to start using the POS systems, helping them create a cash trail, which will help them become bankable in the future. Help them create an online presence, providing more of a channel for consumers to purchase their services and products. The positive trends we've been seeing is the younger AAPI entrepreneurs. They have been able to adopt well. They were able to adapt and shift into the business strategies and the way of getting their services and products out through online. So a lot of them right now have shifted to an online platform, and they're actually doing quite well. And we've been, I think, from the beginning of COVID to now, we have successfully helped shifted 50 businesses to an online platform and to start being more digital. So Emily, that's all I have for now. I'll just save the rest for the other panelists. I don't want to take too much of the time. Back to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Tony, for sharing everything, especially with all the in-language services that's really unique with your center and others that are on this call today. Next, I wanted to turn to our next panelist, Dana Ha'anio, Director of the Honolulu MBDA Business Center, who will share a little bit more about how to best serve Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander businesses and the work that the center does in general. Dana, please go ahead.
Aloha, everybody. Again, my name is Dana Ha'anio. Thank you, Emily. I run the MBDA Business Center in Honolulu. The operator is the University of Hawaii. So we have a technical assistance provider platform, very similar to all of the other centers. And we have a three-pronged approach, which is very similar to all of the other business centers, which is we provide access to contracts, capital, and resources out into the community. Our community here in the state of Hawaii, as well as specifically in Honolulu, is minority majority, which is the preponderance of our community is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders. Having said that, we have a large amount of minority business enterprise, but they're small businesses. So what we try to do is provide services to the MBE, specifically AA, NH, and PI community, in terms of how we can innovate their systems, how we can expand the products and services that they provide, not just domestically on island, but also export, not just to the 48 contiguous, but out into the Asian Pacific region. So really quickly, our numbers here at the University of Hawaii, how we approach this is that we provide technical assistance through contract procurement. So we do that in the public and private sector. For the public sector, again, we do provide government procurement assistance. So we can help with the certifications. We can help with the market research in terms of finding those procurement pockets within the city, state, or federal communities. We can help assist putting together solicitations so that our MBEs are in the best position to be awarded contracts. Part of awarding contracts means that we need to build up their capital systems, which means we can put together loan packages. We can provide them contacts through our relationships with the local and national bank systems. We can connect them with surety companies to get bonding capacity in order to increase their capacity to procure larger contracts. And then the third thing is that we provide them resources. So we use our collaborative efforts, our leverage, our partnerships, so that we can connect our MBEs with resources that can help them as well as assist them on how to expand their business opportunities. So here at the university, to the extent that we've started up our grant, we have procured or secured for our MBEs close to $2 billion of activity. That includes contract procurement and financial capital assistance. We've also assisted our MBEs secure at least 3,000 jobs, both retained and created. And we've also helped do a return on investment for our companies at about 2-to-1. So the way we do that is primarily through education, training, and leveraging of our partnerships. So here at MBDA, we focus on developing curriculum to look at the protocols and systems that the private and public sector, in order to create opportunities, is how do we educate and train our MBE community to align themselves with the buyers out there. So we've done that through multiple different types of workshops, whether it be certification workshops, how to put together proposal workshops, how to do market research workshops, or really even bringing in those large companies to create matchmaking and networking events for our companies. We have been successful prior to COVID to the extent that we have allowed our MBEs to maintain relationships, which we all know is critical in increasing our business opportunity access. Since COVID, we have pivoted ourselves to providing more online platforms to the extent that whatever it is that we did face-to-face, now we can do it online. Like many other of the MBDA business centers, we have reached out to our communities, our Asian American communities, to provide those kind of leverages to the extent if there is a resource and a language that the university cannot provide, then we reach out to the communities so that we can leverage our knowledge and skills on the business technical platform, as well as what the communities have in terms of outreach. So we have been successful in those 3 platforms, and we welcome any of the attendees to reach out to us so that we can help provide assistance in those 3 areas. Thank you. Back to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Dana. Before I introduce Marla, I just wanted to share out to everyone listening in that we will be sending a follow-up email with all of the websites and contact information and some other resources that are shared by all the panelists today. So I just wanted to let you know to stay tuned for that after the program. But next, I would like to introduce Marla Momi Music, MBDA Business Development Manager at one of our EWOC centers, the Oahu EWOC Center, to share a little bit more about what is this EWOC Center and highlight a few programs. Marla, please take it away.
Thank you, Emily. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about the MBDA Enterprising Women of Color Business Center here at the YWCA on Oahu. And we're a fairly new initiative, so we began in September, and we're really pleased to have seen really rapid growth and interest in our initial programs. And like many of the other centers, we focus on financial analysis, access to the market, and capital. And we do that a number of ways. We work with our women entrepreneurs and business and financial counselors to pair their interests and needs appropriately for the growth of their business. So we're really pleased to have our women entrepreneurs meet that. We're happy to meet them where they are, and we help them, pair them with the counselors that will best, help their interests grow and help their businesses. One of our marquee programs is certification training. So we're on our third cohort, and we go through a fairly in-depth training on helping them become certified and compete for set-aside government and corporate contracts. Our third cohort has a two-part program, 3A and 3B. The first part is really a general overview. So anyone interested in certification training can get a real thorough overview and really make the assessment, is my business ready for this? And our 3B portion does have some prerequisites to applying, which would be monthly financial statements, 3 years of personal or business taxes, and the business owner has to work full-time in their business. And then we go very deep into certification training in that 3B portion. So if you have the prerequisites and are interested and ready for, know this is the right journey for your business, that training will take you all the way to your application. The other thing we do is public education. We're pleased to work across Hawaii with various business resource partners to address the needs of the community. I will echo what Dana says in terms of our minority majority here. We do have a predominance of small businesses. And for instance, this month, May, we've worked with the Office of Economic Revitalization, Honolulu City and County, and they have a great boots on the ground program that has really knocked on every door of small businesses on Oahu, particularly, to understand what their are in the face of the results of this pandemic and how they need to pivot. So we work with a lot of business resource partners, such as the OER, Office of Revitalization, to customize subject matter business roots in the community with subject matter interests that are reflective of what the business community, small business community, is asking for. So this month, for instance, we featured a webinar on the do's and don'ts of COVID-19 for employers, vaccination and testing and other kinds of legal issues. We also had a webinar on how to save money with the employee retention tax credit. And we're looking forward to partnering with our Sacramento Mbda Export Center. That would be May and her group following on this panel on the ABCs of demystifying exporting in the Asia Pacific region. And that'll be coming up in June. So one of the wonderful outflows of working with women entrepreneurs is the organic nature of the network that has created. And we see our women entrepreneurs working with one another as mentors, sharing best practices, coming back to the center to collaborate. And we're really looking forward moving through this year into enriching that network and helping our women entrepreneurs grow in their businesses with each other, with community resources, with our own counselors, through certification training. And we see exponential interest in our women entrepreneurs growing here in Hawaii. All of that information and access to that information will be provided by Emily in the follow-up email. So please be in touch with us. We have a unique position here in that we're here at the YWCA in Honolulu. It's a 150-year-old organization that has worked towards the empowerment of women and girls for all of that time. And we have a sister business center here called the Patsy T. Meek Women's Business Center. They focus on startup businesses. So we're really a one-stop for women entrepreneurs. We help one another, we refer to one another, we have different kinds of resources, but our collective effort is to help women grow in their business and empower them. So That's all on our website, all the information for our resource, business resource counseling, our certification training, and our other educational programs. So thank you so much, Emily, for featuring us today.
All right, thank you so much, Marla. It's really great to hear about some collaboration that's already happening with between the centers and initiatives. Next, who was mentioned, I would like to introduce Sephon, Director of the Sacramento MBDA Export Center, and who will be sharing about a video that we'll be watching momentarily. May, please take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sephon, Director of the Sacramento MBDA Export Center. Special thanks to the MBDA Central Office for gathering us today in honor of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Thank you also to our sister MBDA Business Centers and EWOC Center for the privilege of joining you on this panel. Over the past 5 years of our center's history, we have served over 2,742 businesses and realized more than $168 million in export contracts and more than 1,067 jobs created and retained. Our services and resources are very similar to the ones you've just heard from the other business centers here on the panel. However, our focus as an export center is on helping companies export goods and services successfully to the Asia-Pacific region. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing one of our top exporters here in California. Coway Foods represents one of the most successful business enterprises our center has had the privilege of working with. In spite of the enormous challenges caused by the pandemic and international trade over the past year, Coway Foods has endured a very difficult year with strong results. In the following story, you'll hear more about the journey of Coway Foods. Like many exporters that we work with, Coway Foods is an important contributor to our domestic and global economies. From the many jobs that it provides to the agricultural goods it exports, I am confident you will be inspired by the story of Coway Foods and its CEO, Jack Huang. Emily, you can cue up the video.
Mi nombre es Daniel. Me gusta trabajar aquí. Aprendo cada día algo más. Me dio el don de tener manos.
In the beginning, I really knew nothing about pecan. In fact, it was an accident. I was actually a banker before we started Coway Food. Now, one of my customers at the bank, he was buying and selling pecan to China. So he came to me and said, I don't speak Chinese. Would you like to join me? I jumped on it and I started Coway Foods. I'm the president of Coway Foods, based in Santa Clara, California.
Harvesting pecans is a lot of work. There is a lot of love that goes into it too. Sometimes we like to say the labor of love in growing and harvesting pecans because you really put your heart and soul into it year round. It is a farm-to-table product that, is the livelihood of all of our growers.
China is a huge country with 1.4 billion people. And when we first started, they didn't know much about pecan. And I look at this and I thought that was an opportunity for me. So we started shipping pecan to China. Coway Food has been in business since 2008. So our revenue continued to grow, and in just the 5th year, our sales hit 16 million. I think the number one question that people ask me is that I have the best product, but how come I cannot sell my product to China? Culture is a big obstacle for most foreigners entering the Chinese market. Language is probably easy, You can just hire an interpreter and you can get your message across. But culture really takes time. MBDA has been a great partner for Cowboy Food. As a small business owner, you are going to do a lot of things by yourself. They provide a lot of services to our company, including government regulation, market data, or market development. They are a group of professionals who are not only willing to help you during the good time, they stay with you during the difficult, challenging time like now. I think without MBDA, we wouldn't have accomplished that much today.
Back to you, Emily. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, well, great. Thank you so much, May, for the video. And I know that we were hoping to next hear from Jack himself. So I would like to turn it over to Jack Huang for some remarks as well. Jack, take it away. Jack, are you still with us? I see. Well, I think there might be some technical issues happening on Jack's end. I will, Jack, when we move into our final remarks by panelists, we'll feature you first, so we can hear from you at that point. But for our last and final speaker, we're going to hear from Ms. Laura Shin, Acting Executive Director of AAPI, the White House Initiative on Asian American Pacific Islanders, to share a little bit more about what is AAPI and its regional network, and in light of this being Heritage Month, what are some of the activities and events to make note of. So Laura, please begin.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was a great video for Cowboy Foods, just a great example of the work that MBDA does to provide technical assistances to businesses. So with that, I just want to say I'm so glad. Oh, you know, I did want to recognize a few folks on the attendee list there that I recognize. I see Cherry Destura, Becky Lizama, and former Irvine Mayor Suki Kang on there. So great to see some familiar names on the attendee list. It looks like we have 80 participants today. So a great number. And so I want to say that I'm glad that AAPI and MBDA could partner today to bring you an event focused on advancing API businesses during Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I do want to thank Emily Kessel, Ron Uba, and Efrain Gonzalez for their leadership and work on this event. I also want to recognize Chiling Tong, who is the president and CEO of National ACE. And thank you to all the MBDA business centers that spoke today and shared their resources. I learned a lot from listening to your presentations. As it was already said, I am the Acting Executive Director of AAPI, located here in Washington, D.C. AAPI was established in the Clinton administration and exists to serve the needs of the API community across the country and connect them to the resources of the federal government. We are fortunate to work closely with the White House and specifically with Erica Moritsugu, the new Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Liaison, and Howard O, the Associate Director, an Associate Director at the White House Office of Public Engagement. Something else you should be aware of, WIOPI has a regional network of federal staff that serve as the regional leads throughout the country. The RN, as they are called, is comprised of over 300 members in the 10 federal regions, representing more than 30 federal agencies. The RN seeks to build relationships between the federal government and the API community by coordinating outreach and engagement efforts across regional offices. If you would like to engage with our regional network leadership, you can reach us. You can find the contact information for your regional lead in your area on our website. And the best way to do that is just to Google WIOPI Regional Network, and you will see a list of names, your area in the country, and then if you click on a drop down, you'll see the email address for your regional network lead for WIOPI. And so that's someone that's geographically close to you. Or you can just email us at our email address, which is wiopi@doc.gov. And we're happy to answer any of your questions and direct you to the right federal agency for resources. The regional network leadership looks forward to coordinating local and regional events to continue to help the Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander community better understand and engage with the federal government. Some quick points about the AA and NHPI community. It's comprised of over 22 million people and is over 7% of the population in this country, with over 50 ethnicities and 100 languages. So as you can see, we are not a monolith, and there is so much diversity within the community. I started in this position on February 1st, right during the time when there was a spike in anti-Asian hate, and then the Atlanta shootings occurred, where 8 people died, 6 of them Asian American women. The anti-Asian hate and violence, along with the pandemic, has had a devastating impact on API businesses. According to the SBA, 8% of small businesses in the US are Asian owned and have been hit disproportionately hard throughout the coronavirus pandemic. And an astounding 84% of API business owners reported that their businesses were negatively affected by COVID-19. According to Stop API Hate, an organization fielding incidents targeting APIs, there have been over 6,000 self-reported incidents of violence, physical assault, and harassment towards APIs since March 2020, with the majority of incidents occurring in places of businesses and targeted towards women. I do want to note the White House has been swift to respond to this anti-Asian hate, with the president condemning racism, xenophobia, and intolerance against APIs in various presidential documents, speeches, and actions. And WIOPI has been working alongside to move the conversation forward as we move towards solutions. I also want to highlight that on his first day in office, the president signed an executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. And then just last week, the president signed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, which passed by an overwhelming margin. My hope is that this event today will be a step forward in supporting the AA and NHPI community as we recover from the impacts of the pandemic and hate. So thank you once again to MBDA for partnering with WIOPI on this event, and we hope it was a timely and beneficial event during May Heritage Month. Thank you, and back to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Laura. And I see that Jack is back on, so I wanted to turn the mic back to Jack Huang to share a little bit more. Please, Jack.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm honored to be here. I'm the guy in the video. As you can see, I'm just a regular guy, 5'7", I started my business in 2008. Before that, I worked for commercial banking industry for 10 years. And before I moved to the United States, I worked for 3 years in international trading business. I work for a state-run company in Guangzhou, China. And at that time, I learned the hand-on experience in import and export, including, documentation, warehousing, trade show and marketing and stuff like that. And I got my feet wet before I came to the United States. And so I went to school here, and so I got a degree in finance, and that's how I ended up in banking. But working for banking industry was also very beneficial because I worked with a lot of businesses, including international trading company, import and export, high technology companies, and I got an opportunity to see the business plan, the financial statement, and I learned a lot from those business owners. And in fact, many of them are very smart people. And I learned a lot. And I got to learn how they succeeded and how they failed. And so that, when I started my business in 2008, I was very well prepared because I knew what to do and what not to do, and to repeat the mistakes that they made. So, I've been in this business for 12 years, and overall, I think international trading is a good business, and because many of the, I would say probably 95% of the business are conducted outside the U.S. And in fact, most of the import and export companies are run by minorities from Asia, Africa, Europe, and I really enjoyed it. And when I tried to start my company, my father said, "Why do you want to do something else? You have a good job, you have stable income, but for myself, I liked to challenge myself. Pretty much at that time, I was thinking, I can pretty much envision what my retirement like. I didn't really like it, and I said to my dad, and said, well, I don't want just good, I want better. And so import and export has always been something that I always wanted to do. And so, I thought, even if it doesn't work, I will go back to work for the bank. And so it's no big deal. And so the last thing I want is that, you never try. And then when you retire, you're going to regret for not trying something that you like to do. And so I was very passionate about import and export business. It's fun, it's challenging, but along the way, I have learned to prepare myself for starting my company, including working for companies in China, working for commercial banking that allow me to learn the trade financing part, which is also important. And so I think there must be a lot of people sitting in the audience. I believe many of you are a successful business owner, and some of you are trying to start your business. And I think I would like to offer a few pieces of advice for you to consider when you go home. As a business owner, and we, especially a small company, and you pretty much have to be involved in everything, including marketing, sales, operation, financing, and you need to understand a little bit of everything, right? And so first thing first, you need to have a banker that understands your business, who is passionate about also what you do. And so we work with a small international bank in Los Angeles called GBC International Bank. It's a small international bank, but they do a lot of financing for import and export companies, SBA loan. They are one of the best lenders out there. And so, and also you would need to have a good forwarder because you don't have all the manpower to handle everything. And so we have been outsourcing our logistic services to our forwarder. You also need to have some other partners too, like Mbda, SBA, or Import and Export Bank. I think we are very lucky to be in this country because we have so many resources available to help us to succeed and to take our business to the next level. As we speak, I was just informed by a bank, our second SBA loan was approved yesterday. And so it is, we got a lot of help from the bank, the Mbda and other organizations like USADA. I would go to trade shows. And I would get 50% reimbursement for the costs. And so there are a lot of resources we can utilize. And so, but anyway, so overall, I enjoy this business. I enjoy working with Mbda. If you have any questions, feel free to call them, or if you need to reach out to me, feel free to go to our website and email to me, sales@callawayfoods.com, or contact May at Sacramento Mbda. And so I would give the time back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Jack. It's really valuable to have to hear about your experience and your work that you're doing with the Sacramento Export Center and May Husan. Just being mindful of our program closing in a few minutes, I just would like for the remaining panelists, if you could just, so the audience can get more familiar with you once again, if you could just say a closing greeting with your name and your center, so they'll be able to reach out to you soon. Can we start with you, May?
Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Jack. Yes, I'm with the Sacramento Mbda Export Center, and our contact details will be shared with all who are on this call if you'd like to learn more about our services. Thank you for joining us today.
Wonderful. How about Dana next?
Again, this is Dana O'Neill. I run the Mbda Center business at Honolulu under the University of Hawaii. Feel free to reach out to us using that contact information that Emily will get out to you. Thank you for participating.
Great. Marla?
Music with the Mbda Enterprising Women of Color Business Center here at the YWCA in Honolulu. I look forward to helping anyone who would like to reach out for our services around the country. Thank you.
Great. And Janet.
Thanks again, Emily, so much for hosting this. This National ACE is the National Asian Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship. We represent over 2.2 million AAPI businesses across the country. If you need any services, consulting, please feel free to reach out to us, and our contact information will be included as well on this presentation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining in. I know I saw people on here from Hawaii and California, North Dakota, Nevada, New Mexico, and many more locations. So thank you for tuning in. And another warm thank you to Congresswoman Chu for the opening remarks, as well as MBDA's Efrain Gonzalez, and all of our panelists, National ACE, San Jose Business Center, Honolulu Business Center, Oahu Ewok Center, Sacramento Export Center, and Jack Long with Callaway Foods and AAPI. And also a special thanks to our MBDA Office of Business Development, especially Ron Uba, and welcome back to Joanne Hill. and Tavia Grimsley, who's behind the scenes. Thank you as well. So I wish everyone a happy Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And I hope you enjoyed the program. Please continue to follow us on our mbda.gov website, our social media, sign up for the newsletter, and to stay tuned for other upcoming activities, such as our MedWeek Awards that are coming up in September. And we'd love your nominations that are due June 15th to make sure we have AA and NHPI representation for nominees. All right, thank you so much. Happy Heritage Month.